Welcome back to our series of videos. This is number 4 in the series of miniatures, but this is 4A because I'm going to do something in 2 parts. Here's what we're doing. We're going to turn a set of nested boxes with lids or without, your choice, but I'm going to do mine with lids. Before I get started, I want to show you some of the caveats that we need to think about when we're turning a set of boxes. For instance, here, this is a set of only 2 boxes. Smaller one, put the lid on, it falls right off. But if I put the lid on and turn a quarter turn, it won't come off. Same thing about nesting. Doesn't go in, doesn't go in, goes in. What am I showing you? I'm just showing you that the wood is warped and it's ovalized. This wood is curly maple. It's been dried for a number of years, but as I cut on it, I changed the tensions in the wood fibers themselves and it moved. So beware that this is one of the things that will happen is we'll have to deal with some movement. Next set of boxes. These are oak. 4 nested boxes. Talk about fits. That's the fit I like. It slides down easily with just the air, just enough clearance, moves in and out easily. The next one, that's great. The last one in the set, that's a little too loose now for me. And to get that kind of fit is going to require sanding into the perfect wall thickness. So that's something else I'm going to consider. I started off with a set of Forstner bits drilling down straight, and I set them at an 1/8 of an inch apart. That meant each wall is going to be less than a 1/16 before I start to sand. So this gets very, very thin, and that may be something you want to consider. Going in 1/4 inch steps gives us a look more like that, which I think is more acceptable. So here's a set of walnut boxes. I love this fit here. It's just almost too tight. That's an air gap. Fourth one's a little loose. Now when I make a set of boxes that have lids, another set of problems come up. Here's a smaller set done with oak and some other Wenge probably. Forstner bits have a point in the center, and that point is about an 1/8 of an inch long. So as I go down in size, I have to account for the thickness of the bottom, another 1/8 of an inch to account for the hole caused by that Forstner bit, the thickness of the inset for the lid, and the thickness for the top of the lid. So there's a lot of things that causes each set to get just a little bit shorter. Hey, come on out of there, guy. That's a little snug. So the next one's a little shorter. The next one's a little shorter. And the last one is just totally unacceptably short. Yeah, I made a lid for it. So I've got to figure out how to not lose so much height. And the cause of that height loss is easily seen here when we can see that little dimple caused by that Forstner bit. So I have several choices. I can go in there and cut that out. I can have a set that looks like this if they're lidded. Or I can accommodate this differently. On this set, I literally drilled all the way through the bottom. David Bentley suggested that maybe I just let that bit go all the way through. I did, and then cleaned it up with a drill bit, put my decorative marks on here, filled it with epoxy that had been colored, and then sanded it back and made that hole through the center part of the design. And I did that on each of the 4 pieces. So today, I'm going to do a set much more like this than anything else. I have that dimple that I need to take care of, and I'm going to fix this bottom in 3 different ways. 3 boxes, 3 different bases. One is going to be just exactly like this, that dimple cut out. The second bottom is going to be like this set, where I'm going to drill through and then fill with epoxy. And the third set, well, just wait and see what I'm going to do. Entirely different idea. So let's clear the deck, get a piece of wood on here, and start cutting some boxes. Ready to go? I have a piece of walnut, and I'm going to move all the boxes out of this walnut. I'm going to use a number 2 set of jaws on my chuck initially. I may change over to the number 1s or pin jaws for some of the later boxes, but I have this chuck set aside in case I need it. I prepared my walnut stock by putting a tenon on one end. I'm going to chuck this up. And I've allowed enough extra wood that I'll be able to use the remaining part after I cut the box off to make a jam chuck for fitting out the outside. And I'll use that same jam chuck for all 3 boxes. I'm only making 3 of this. I'm going to put this as the first hole I'm going to put in here, and here's that Forstner bit, and you can see the projection of this. This is, on this one, actually a little over 1/8 of an inch. Let's just see how long it really is in this case. Yeah, that's about 3/16. So I have to account for 3/16 plus the thickness of the bottom. I'm going to go in here and actually make that little mark go away. I use a Bedan tool for that. So I need to know the diameter of the outside of the box. This is the hole I want to put in. And I want to go 1/4 inch wall. That means I have to add, I want 1/8 of an inch wall. I have to add it 1/4 inch. So there's the setting for the outside of the box, roughly. Now the first one I can make any diameter I want. So I have this set, gives me my outside dimension. And I'm ready to go with my drilling. So I'll set this aside. And I'm going to get started off with my tailstock because I don't know if this piece is running absolutely true. I'll know in about a minute. And the first job is to true this up, shape my box. Just going to use a standard bowl gouge. Speed's down to 0. Well, wood is running fairly true, but it's not perfect, so one quick pass here. That's just to true it up. Now this is going to be the top of the box, and it's pretty irregular. It came right off the bandsaw. So I need to square that off, at least at the edge, so I have a nice clean top to my box. Now that's more than the depth I need. Because this is all going to get bored out. So I have a clean edge. This will be the top. Now I need to do a little shaping for the outside of the box. I want it to be about that big around, so I know about how much I want to take off. And on the outside of the outside box, I can do any shape I like, but I'm going to give it a little bit of a curvature. Not much, but a little bit of shape, just a bit. Now I have to decide how deep is this box going to be, and that is my choice at this time. All the other ones will be fitted to this box. So I'm deciding that maybe about that deep. And that's just very arbitrary. Just a little curve. Now I want to mark that bottom. And I'm going to do that by putting my parting cut in here. Just a little, not too deep. now know where the bottom of that's going to be, and I can now pull the bottom edge in. And just a little shaking. That's all I need to do at the moment. So let's sand. Start with a little bit of 120. You're going to find sanding is an important part because fitting the inside boxes is going to be a sanding step. This is just for attractiveness here. 120, 180. Now just jump right over to 400. Using the cloth paper blends out a lot of my tool marks. See what this is going to look like. Well, that's pretty attractive looking wood. So one of my finishing techniques is to use this Triple E Ultra Shine, which is a mixture of wax and a little bit of abrasive material. So it's going to polish it up, add a little bit more shine to it. And this set of show boxes is going to be a fine enough finish. By rubbing this, I'm not only working the wax in, I'm also working the abrasive in, up over the top edge. And a piece of blue shop towel to clean it up a little bit. To me, that's the outside of it done. I could go ahead and put some wax on it. I use arbor wax, but I'm not going to today. So we have a box outside. So the next thing now to do is to hollow it out. So let's set up our drilling. I have my Forstner bit Jacob's chuck set here. It's going to go right into that hole, and if I look down here I can see how thick the outside edge wall is going to be for this first box. Got to slow this way down. Lock it off. Now, if this is the bottom, and I have to allow for the tip, I want a 1/4 inch thickness, and I got to allow another 3/16. So I've got to keep it that short, so it's got to finish right about in here. So that means the total depth of this piece is going to be about there. Now that means slightly up on the Jacob's chuck, so I can kind of eyeball that. That'll be good enough. I have a habit of taking this in steps. Point is to not let the bit get too hot. Be back in a few minutes. That's close enough. We're right about where we are. We're off about a 1/16. So now I can get in here to the bottom and I can clean up that dimple. There's the depth of the dimple. Right to there. There's the depth of the box. That's how long that protrusion in the center of that Forstner bit is. Go back and touch this up again. I lost some of my gloss. 400 here on the edge. Okay. Now I can sand that out. I can come in here with my Bedan and clean up some of that bottom. It's like hollow vessels. And so on. So now I'm going to part this off, and we need to finish the bottom. My thin parting tool, but one that has some thickness in this direction. I'm going to go slightly in this direction to create a very small cove in the base. Overlap cuts. Now on the base again, slowly down towards the center. Now I have a little bit of a dimple there that I can take off. Typically a Q chisel is a great way to do that, just to cut that off. I could try to sand it, but it's faster this way. Now the bottom has to be finished. Easy enough. Take my calipers. What is the inside diameter? It is exactly that. So that's the size of the tenon I need, right to there. Little quick mark. Go down, just take this down a little bit. That's about as deep as I need it. I'm getting close to the mark. So I'm going to take a wide parting tool, clean up this bottom. And I'm going to taper this. The idea is to test. Well, I overcut, so I got to go further. Almost. Tapered again. Now what I have on here is a burnish mark, so I can tell exactly where the fit needs to be. And I want it a little loose, just a little loose, because I'm going to use a helper. Yeah, see, I can get that on there and that'll work. But I want to use a paper infill to keep from damaging this and make it so I can get it off easily. This needs to be done carefully. Okay. My little gasket material. You'll see me do this on every one of these. Now, sand this off. Again, same step as before. It's 120, 180, jump right to 400. Make sure the corner's gotten. And a little finish on that. More of my gasket material here. Wipe that down. And now for the last step. Always put a little decorative mark on the bottom. That'll be right at center. I don't go back and refill that. I don't, because it'll make it stand out. So there's box one. Just like that. So now box two, we're going to save this because we'll use it again. We'll use it for the next box. So let's take it off, set it aside. Need that for later. Now for the next box, I have a piece of very large wood here. It doesn't need to be that big. Got my caliper set. This is going to be the width of the box. This caliper is going to represent the depth, plus a little bit more for the tenon so I can chuck it. So we're going to cut it and then rip it. Off to the bandsaw. Okay, we're at the bandsaw. So this is going to be the length. This is the diameter. So the length is about 2 1/4. And I need to allow enough to get into the chuck and a little room for the parting cut. So I'm going to guess about that for the length. It's very arbitrary. Now I could chuck this up and turn all this away, but I know it doesn't need to be bigger than this. So I'm going to go, that's the inside dimension. And I want to allow an extra 1/4, so I'm going to go up a little bit more. Yeah. But I could take away some wood while I'm here at the bandsaw. That's the whole point. Trying to see if there's a good side and a bad side, but they all look the same to me. So I'm going to cut it pretty much like this. Nice grain. So now we go back, put this on the lathe. Okay, back to the lathe. I have chucked this back up between centers. I know that the diameter needs to be that dimension, maximum. So I'm going to turn that down to that. The depth has to fit inside of here, and I've measured that, and there's just enough room in here to part that off. Remember, I use this older piece for the jam chuck later on, so I won't waste much wood here. So the idea is turn it around and bring it down to this diameter. Shorter piece, don't need a tailstock now. Okay, I got about a 16th to a 32nd yet to come off. So I'll take a little bit more off, maintaining as straight an edge as I possibly can, and then I'm going to sand it down to the final dimension. So bring my tool rest in just a bit more. Goal here is to keep it as straight as I can. Yeah, that's the fit I want right there. So we got that. Now the length. There's the length right there. So I need to mark that. Parting tool cut right here. Length is marked. Diameter is right. Next thing to do is a little bit of hollowing. So we're back to our Forstner bit. And I've selected the next size I want, which is 1/4 of an inch down from the last one. That's going to give me a wall about 1/8 of an inch thick, about that thickness right here. So we'll turn the speed down again. Okay. Sand a little inside if you want. Make sure the edge is nice. Now we're going to finish this. 120. 180. A little 400. Triple E. A little buffing out. Now when I part this one off, there's going to be a hole right in the center of it. The size of that center of that portion of it. And here we go. Overlapping cuts. There's my point coming through, just as I thought. So I know how thick the bottom is now. And this piece of wood we don't need anymore. Throw them away. And I've got my tenons set for the other chuck. So I'm going to change chucks real quickly here. Go back to the Talon chuck, for which the jam chuck is already fitted. Now, it'll probably run relatively true, but remember I have to reshape this for the next one anyway, so I'll fix anything that's not right. So now, that's the size jam chuck I need. There. By the way, it's the fit. Perfect. But I need to work on this. So I need a jam chuck that's that size there. Now let's go to our gouge for a second. This surface is not important, but it's a good place for me to measure from. Now I can transfer. Needs to be right about there. Take off the extra mass. See how close we are. My burnish mark. Okay. Wide parting tool to finish this off. A lot of fitting in this process. Okay, ready. Special chuck adapter. Make sure I don't have it. That's a little too tight. I'm afraid of cracking the wall, so I'm going to take it down just a bit more. Don't want to crack this, not at this point. See if that was enough. No, still too tight. So to me, that's 180 grit fix now. I need to take off probably less than 1,000th. Yeah. Good. Remove the excess. Now, I know the hole went through. Let's take a skew chisel. Put a little nub on. Now I want to drill a hole in there to make that nice and smooth. So I'm going to take a regular drill bit, replace my Forstner bit with a drill bit about the right size. So I'm going to have to kind of guess what I want. That looks about right. Go. And if I did a set, I would come down in smaller drill bits here, as well as the box got smaller also. Carefully. Now I have a clean hole in there, which I will fill with epoxy in a couple minutes. So let's sand this down now, and then I'm going to put my other marks on, which I'll also fill with epoxy. That looks like it could use a little tool work. Too much sanding here unless I take a little bit off. Let's see what I'm going to do. I could cut this way, but I'm pushing across my jam chuck and I'm risking popping it off. If I do this, it's going to be very light cuts. No pushing. If there's any pressure at all, it's towards the headstock. My right hand is pushing towards the headstock. The thumb on my left hand is the only pressure advancing the cut. Now I'm going to scrape a little bit because I know it's a little safer. Take less wood, less possibility of a catch. I'm not get that edge perfect. Make sure the bottom is a little indented. Let's check how flat that is. Too flat. Need a little more on. Straight edge, check it. Good. So now I'm going to sand it. Got a piece torn off. 120. Corner. Well, that's 400. There's the 180. $400. Now I'm going to fill that hole. Put a piece of tape on the inside. Fill that with epoxy. But I want to decorate it additionally. So let's come back here to my diamond point again. Fairly deep. Means it'll take more epoxy that way. Probably should have done this first, but I'm going to go back and recut those 3 grooves because I don't want any wax down in there when I put epoxy on. Just clean it off. Cleaning out the grooves. Yeah. I'm going to go back and clean them out with the tool. Epoxy is not going to stick in there if I have wax down in there. Not that difficult to clean them. Okay. Okay, second bottom. We're going to fill those pucks with epoxy, put it back onto the jam chuck, sand that back down again, and we'll have box number 2. Slides in pretty easy now because we've got a hole in it. Listen to that. That's the air running through that hole. So I have singing boxes. Okay. So we're going to do a third one. I'm going to do a different bottom on this one too. But before we do that, I'm going to stop and fill this with epoxy. And we will then set it aside to dry while we're working on the third box. So we're going to stop for a second. I'm going to mix up some epoxy. Okay, I just came back for the bandsaw. I've trimmed this block down, took the last box and checked its depth. Inside is that deep, and its inside diameter is that. So I've trimmed this piece down so that I can chuck it and have enough wood, and I don't have to spend a lot of time turning away. I'm just going to grab it by the corners. That's good enough because it's square. I do a good grab. Okay. So I'm going to turn this around, and we're going to do a different bottom on this one, which will be kind of interesting. It's not at all what you expect. I'm not happy with the tool rest. Reset it. Make sure it's good and tight. It's round. to square this end off a little bit here too, won't hurt. At least that area where it's going to be part of the edge. Side diameter is about there. Okay, I need to get my box to measure. It's sitting on the back table because I've got epoxy setting in it. So let me grab it. We're waiting for the epoxy to dry in here so I can finish turning it. But the inside dimension's still fine. Oh. I'm fine down to right about there. I'll let it dry up here now. Needs a little bit more off on this end here. I think we have it. A little snug up the top, just enough that that takes a piece of maybe 180 to fix that, because I have sanded anyway. Let's see if the 180 fixed it. It did. Okay. 400. May have to do that over again, but I just like doing it. Polish this up so nice. So I've already selected my next Forstner bit. This one is going to be different. We know the depth of this box. Get the right calipers. It's right there. So if I go that deep, plus a quarter of an inch for the bottom, oh, I'm going to do something different. I'm not going to worry about a quarter of an inch for the bottom. I'm going to make a bottom for it after the fact, just for fun. So let's make that quarter inch depth about right though. There's a quarter. So I want to go, again, right to the edge of the chuck. It's working out really good. I don't have to do a lot of measuring. Speed down, tailstock locked, wheel loose. Start easy. Here we go drilling. Don't touch that bit. Clean that inside up a little bit. And that took my wax finish off. Well, I'll do it again. I kind of knew that was going to happen. Okay, so what's different this time, let's see how deep this piece really is. Right to the mark, look there. So if I part it off right there, I'm going to end up with a cylinder, which is exactly what I want to do. I know where my parting cut's going to go. There's my cylinder. No bottom. What if I made a bottom, put it inside of here without all these marks on it? I could actually decorate the inside of this. I can either use this wood or change to something else for contrast. But since it's here, I'm going to use what I've got. Nice clean bottom. What do we got here? Oh, this is coarse stuff. That'll be fun. This is going to be the inside. I should have gone a little bit more. A little bit of the dimple still left. Unlike the other ones, this is going to be the inside of the base. And let's polish it and decorate it. Polish. And let's decorate it in our normal way with 3 concentric marks. 1, 2, 3. Okay, inside of the base now has been decorated. So now what we need to do, clean this edge up a little bit. I parted it off, I left a little tear. And I'm cleaning it up with 400 because I don't need anything off of it so much. I just want to get that nice and flat. Nice clean mark. So the ID is there. Well, I guess we're going to have 2 marks inside because that's where the pellet needs to be. Now we'll start fitting. Oh, just so close. And I think we'll use our skew chisel to finish this off, because I need to be able to take just a very little bit amount, and I want to make sure it's really straight. Well, a little bit more than that. So it's close enough that I can do this. $180. There's going to be our base, and by George, it's decorated inside. I'll be darned. Now I don't have any room to part that off, so I'm going to bring this out a little bit. It's too far in. In order to part that off, I need it out a little bit farther. I'll make sure it's running square. Square enough. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more working room here. That's just for clearance. So let's part this off. Trick was catching it. So there's my base. So inside, there's my 1/8 inch thickness, and that goes in here with just a little bit of glue. And then I'll finish this up with a little sand. Dropped it. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to glue this in with this side up, like that. And now we have the third base. This one is flat. This one's decorated inside. And I've accounted for no more than 1/8 of an inch thickness. And you could actually change color and put a different species of wood in there if you wanted to. So that's 3 boxes. This guy is almost dry enough to work on, but not quite. I want this epoxy to be stone hard, not just rubbery hard. So I can't actually turn that decoration away, but you have seen in my other box set what that effect is going to look like. I'll just simply turn the epoxy away until it's down to the surface and these cut rings, and that hole will then end up showing up. Some are better than others, of course. another one. And I did it in all four. Maybe the small one's the best, I don't know. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do with this guy. And to chuck him, I can go in here and hold it like this with my number 1 jaws inside. I can use the jam chuck like I did before. Put it right back on here again and clean that up, because this is the jam chuck I used last time and it's all ready to go. So I'll do that as soon as the glue is dry, but you'll see where that set goes. So thanks for watching. Come back for part B, in which case we're going to recut all of these boxes to make lids for them and make them stack internally to each other. So a set of lids is the next step. So we'll see you in the next part of this 2-part video. Subscribe, give us likes, thumbs up if you're enjoying these. Give us your comments on things that you'd like us to do in the future. We'll see you next time.